And not only coon hunting, but hunting itself about this country.
Mm-hmm.
And only in this country can this happen. And I for one, I'm pretty proud of it, contrary to what people may think. I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
I really am.
Get these mics situated there.
Now, I ain't all here about interviews either. I'm old school. So
It's easy.
we'll just have to get through it.
Oh, man, just
I
be
can
yourself.
I could out talk the governor one-on-one or two or three.
Yeah.
You know
put
it?
you in a crowd though, you
No, I
got
can't talk
that
in front of
Jenkins
the
curse
crowd.
will get clammed up.
Yeah.
Unless you walkie-talkie, he can
Yeah.
talk in front of anybody.
Oh, man. I sure missed that young guy, I tell you.
It ain't no different than what we've been doing, sitting right over there on
Yeah.
that couch.
Yep.
All right, I'll do a quick intro and we'll get started. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fueled by Joy podcast, and I got a good one here for you. Eddie Jenkins, the legend guy Manny, Wesley Young, all sat down here at camp in Texas, and we're going to talk coon dogs for a little bit. We've been talking coon dogs for quite a while. We missed a lot of good stuff already. How you guys doing?
We're good. You?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys come. It's miserable weather. I know it's 22 degrees here, which is pretty cold for this part of the world, but we're here. We're by the fire. We're at camp, one of my favorite places, and we're going to sit here and talk about coon dogs for a little bit. And I want to start with you, Mr. Eddie. Let's just start at the beginning. When did you start coon hunting? Did your daddy coon hunt, all that good stuff? Or did
I
you start
started with Dennis Ainsworth.
Yeah.
I was 11 years old, and that's how it all got started.
Did you immediately take to it?
Oh, yeah, the first night I was hooked.
Really?
Yeah.
Even down here and all, this is what gets me about you guys is there's some good hunting in Texas, in this part of East Texas, and you guys all live fairly close to here, not right around this area, but fairly close. But it's not all good. It's usually pretty thick. It's hot.
Yeah.
It's hot as blazes for 10 months a year down here. I keep telling myself, if I lived here my whole life, I probably wouldn't do this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys did, and you just took to it immediately. Guys, are you the same way?
Yes, by all means.
Yeah.
Yes.
What about you, Wesley?
Oh yeah. My dad coon hunted, and I was about 6, 7, 8, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
They'd go on a school night, and I'd climb a big live oak out there and wouldn't come down if I didn't get to go hunt. And you can ask Eddie. I mean,
Yeah.
and then Eddie'd come by and get me, and I mean, I loved it. I mean,
Yeah.
just still do.
Guy, what about you? Did your dad hunt?
Yes, it was a way of life for us, for example. My mom always said, and I've told a lot of people, I think my mom gave birth to me in a hollow log. Because it was. Because what we hunted, we probably harvested if we had something to harvest it with. We couldn't buy shells, ammunition. We either clowned, cut, or we either shot it. If we took it home, believe me, it was not destroyed. It was on the table. And God said, well, how in the world that you got so tall? I said, well, I don't know. That's in our DNA to be fairly tall people, and that probably goes a lot further back than I am, several generations being of African descent. But I told this one guy, I said, I've seen kids eat strip sirloin that die at 19.
Mm-hmm.
I said, now I've eaten wild game so far. I'm north of 80 years old, but I'm just happy to be a part of this today. Anytime I can promote the sport of coon hunting, because I think it's beyond the sport.
Yeah.
That's a great camaraderie. Last week, 2 weeks ago, they gave me an award for 30 years when I organized the 5,000 30 years ago, and I was really, really touched by that. And one guy was telling me, he said, man, I didn't know you had that in you. I didn't know you. I said, well, if anybody at some point in time don't feel a moment in their life where they're touched because of the goodness of the people, I said, something wrong with them.
Yeah.
And I feel very strong about it still.
And speaking of people, Chance Lynch is the one that kind of got this all set up. Eddie was telling stories in the clubhouse, and I mean, Chance was texting me because you got to get Eddie on a podcast too. He's got some good stories,
Yes.
And so we want to think about Chance. He goes into surgery today. He went into surgery today.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
by all means.
Prayers.
Miss Stacy texted me probably a couple hours ago and said they were wheeling him in. I said, make sure and keep me updated.
Yeah, she called me to say the same thing.
Yep. Yep. So we'll keep Chance in mind, and Eddie, about them stories. What, you start hunting at 11.
Yeah.
And you immediately take to it. Who did you say you was hunting with?
Dennis Angel.
What dogs did he have? What kind of
He
dogs?
just had some old Walker dogs,
Yeah.
and he bred them, and I got a pick of the litter, a little female. I took her to her first hunt. I had beginner's license. I drove all the way to Gilmer,
Yeah.
and she scored 550, 10 months old. And they tried to cheat me, and I still beat them. I was a kid.
Were they the ones actually doing the cheating?
Yeah,
Let's be honest. Because not very many kids can even recognize if someone's
Yeah,
cheating.
well, I recognized it.
Yeah.
but they offered me $850. One of them did.
Yeah.
It was a 3-dog cat, and the other one offered me.
Don't hit. Watch the
Okay.
table. The table comes through the mic.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Eddie.
But anyway, the other one said, "Don't tell that old man I'll give you $850, a $50 check if you'll sell her." And I said, "She's not for sale."
Yeah.
And that was the first hunt I ever hunted in. It was
Yeah.
a UKC hunt.
How old was you?
I was like 15.
Yeah.
I had beginner's license. I
Yeah.
drove old Plymouth push button from Corsicana to Gilmer. Had her in the back seat.
You didn't even have a driver's license.
No. And the old man met me up there, I know, that come from Oklahoma, and he told them, "Boys, that little female is going to tear y'all up," because he lived across the road.
Yeah.
And I used to have a bad habit of winding my arm up when she treed, and we got back and everything. She treed 3 coons, and they said, he said, "How'd that female do?" And he said, "I know one thing, that young man winds his arm up. You better treat your dog or he's going to treat his." But that was the first time I ever been in,
Yeah.
you know.
Guy, when did you and Eddie meet?
Oh, we were kind of discussing this last week. Eddie, I'm going to ask Eddie to help me with this. How long ago,
It
Jenkins?
was back around 84, I believe.
About 84. So now I went to Prairie A&M University, and all due respect to the university, but y'all somebody going to help me count that. This is what, 25, 84, that's 26. It's been over 50 plus years ago.
So you guys have known each other.
We've
for a
known
long
each
time.
other, and we've traveled quite a lot together. And at some point before this is over, I'd like for you to have Eddie to tell you about the moment he almost won the world championship with one of Mr. Ainsworth's dog called Thunder. That's an intriguing story. And I'm asking him to clean it up because some of his verbiage sometimes can be. And he had the great legendary Ronnie Bones, I believe, was in that cast. But at the end of the day, Eddie and I have known each other north of 50 years.
What was Eddie like as a competitor in 84, 85, whenever you would go out? Did you meet him in a hunt first, or was it just pleasure hunting? Or
No, I'm gonna say it was at a hunt, if I may, and we may have thrown each other, but he was right off the bat. You could tell he was a man of the truth, and that's one of the things that always intrigued me about this man. He could learn your dog before you ever barked twice. He knew just about what that dog ought to be doing, but I've never known him to just literally just bogart anybody to advance in a hunt or in a cast.
yeah,
And that was intriguing to me. He always had a great knack for people who were, if I may use this term, less fortunate, for whatever reason they were less fortunate. He kind of took to that, and he's always shown me the Christian side of his life, which is most intriguing to me, as his ability to hunt.
yeah.
And he's just been a friend down through the years. And it's kind of rare that we come in contact with people like this, but I'm thankful and I feel very blessed having met a guy like Eddie, and certainly his nephew, this young man. I think his nephew, you said you was 12 years old
Yes, sir.
when he started hunting with me. And I feel about as blessed as anybody. I mean, I know men got a lot more money and a lot more everything, up to and including troubles, but I still find a way to find the goodness in our relationship.
Wesley, of course, you've obviously known Eddie all your life,
Yes, sir.
being his nephew, but what was it like growing up hunting with him?
Well, he would come get me and take me hunting, and my dad kind of got out of it. He was more of a hide hunter for the money, and Eddie would take me down to Personville. I'd spectate with him. Man, I loved that.
Yeah.
Watch some guys get at it and stuff, and I hunted into my first hunt, and I drew Clee Ferguson, Ray Desmute, and Guy Manning. And right off the bat, them fellas started going at it, and I said, what in the hell did I get myself into? And I never forget it. I got my little dog treat in at the end, and Clee had an old raw dog light spotlight on it. He said, come here. And he done like that. Mr. Guy probably remembers it. He found my coon tail hanging out. I was hooked. I didn't win again for a while, but I was hooked after that, you know. So I'm thankful for Eddie for coming to get me and disposing. I don't have a good resume or nothing, but I love it.
Yeah.
And I've been around all these guys, and Guy, he actually helped me get a dog one night that was 2 miles in there. I was a little boy.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm gonna stay with you, young man. He walked all that way, and I was thankful for that, you know. So I kind of got my teeth cut in PKC from Eddie and Guy and Clee Ferguson. I hunted with Clee every Wednesday for a long time.
Yeah.
And Clee was sharp now.
Well, you talk about a first cast. That's a pretty good lineup against the guy in the first cast.
I was scared to death. I mean, Ray and Guy are good friends.
Yeah.
And Clee, but don't put them out in that 2-hour cast together. You think they'd hate each other, but they shake each other's hand at the end.
Yeah.
And leave it right there, and you know, I learned pretty quick. Hey, this is where I want to be, you know. So,
Eddie, what was Guy like as a competitor when you first started
He was
drawing?
tough as a rubber boot. He's gonna get struck in on you. Nah, he was we butted head a couple times maybe, but we got over it that night. You know.
It's hard not to be even your best friends.
Yeah.
You're gonna butt heads on a cast.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think it was one night out of all the times, you know, that we had a little disagreement.
Yeah.
Is over a tree, and I just didn't agree with it. I told him, the guy told me, settle down before you have a heart attack. And it finally, you know, rocked on after the hunt. We was playing dominoes or something.
Yeah.
Did that work, Guy, when you told him to settle down?
I think it did. You know, life is such a complex situation, but yet it's so great. And you got to find what's important and what's not important. And one may use the term, you need to prioritize what's important and what's not. And I don't have a problem with that. But anytime you're in competition, somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. But you don't let that encompass you to the point that you lose what's really important.
Yeah.
And that's where Eddie is. That's why one of the things I admired about it. That's one thing I admire about this young man. I watched him, and now I have a lot of time to watch him when I'm at hunts. I can't hunt, so I just sit around, even from the administrating of the hunt to actually hunting and coming back and getting the guys paid off or getting their wind slips or whatever it may be. And I said, that's what it's about. Yeah. And we look forward to the next one. Because at the end of the day, what can be more important?
Nope, I agree. What let's shift gears a little bit and talk just about dogs. You talked about your little female, Eddie. I assume she went on to have a pretty good career whenever you were 15
I saw her when I got married.
Yeah.
And she didn't like me hunting, so, but she wound up dying and had heartworms or something.
The wife or the dog?
The dog.
Are you still married?
No, she passed in 2011.
But you stayed together forever.
Yeah,
so
30 years.
It wasn't a bad deal selling
No,
the dog.
she started saying,
you going hunting tonight?
You going hunting tonight so I can watch my program. She got over the wanting me not to hunt pretty quick.
Once the honeymoon was over, you could get you another coon dog. What'd you get next?
I think it was, I started with Thunder. That James Ainsworth come by one time and said, if you find a dog that you think you can win with, I'll put you in the hunt.
Yeah.
And I hunted with Thunder. Rodney Green called and told me to come down. And he smoked me. You know, that dog, I thought I had a good dog, but he wasn't no good.
Yeah. And then you see Thunder and decided that was a good dog.
Yeah. And so James bought him, and I hunted him like for 7 years.
What'd Rodney tell you? If you could hear him, you wouldn't ever get him.
Yeah, he said if I could hear him, I can't hear that good now. You never would get your hands on him.
Yeah.
And I think I won about 30,000 with him. That was back in the 90s.
That was hard to do.
That was hard.
And
That's right.
And some of them was like in the World Hunt when they managed me on a persimmon tree. He said he had his nose on the ground. He's foaming at the mouth. You know, and that hurt
Yeah,
because he was on a coon tree and spree.
yeah,
And, you know, I love Ronnie Bone to death. I'll say it publicly. But when you're sitting there pointing and the judge, you pay the judge off and he tells you he's going to send you the truck, you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
There's one of them type deals where they took it away
I'll
from
tell you what, I want to start, what year was that?
It was probably in 96.
All right, the 1996 World Hunt with you and Thunder, start to finish, let me hear it. How'd it go?
I hunted, I got in Monday night, lost. Got in Tuesday night, I lost. Wednesday, and I got in the finals on Thursday night.
So you won late round Thursday?
Yeah.
And you lost late rounds Monday, Tuesday,
Yeah.
Wednesday?
And I went on Friday night, I won 2 rounds
Yeah,
and made it to the, it was 16 dogs left in the World Hunt. I didn't make it to the Final Four
Yeah.
with him.
you was one cast away from the
Yeah.
Final Four, you was in the semifinal.
Yeah. And that's
Who was in that cast with you besides Bob?
Ronnie Bone and Johnny Brown.
Yeah,
It was a 3-dog cast.
that's Spencer's dad, right? Johnny, yeah.
Yeah. He was hunting Mountain Music Gate,
Yep,
and Ronnie was hunting Annie.
yep,
And, you know, they split right off the bat. Gate had a coon, Thunder had a den, and then he traded 2 coons, and they minus me on the persimmon tree.
so how did the persimmon tree minus come about?
Well, we was walking in there, I knew he had a coon, he was looking at it.
Yeah.
You know, the tree was about 5 foot tall, and he's sitting there, tree in every breath, and Bone started pointing his finger, and all of a sudden, before I knew it, it was Timmy Waters' daddy.
Yeah,
You know, what's the old man's name?
I don't remember.
Tim Waters?
I can't think of
Yeah.
his name.
He always had a long beard. But
Yeah,
anyway,
right.
he said, I walked up there and Johnny Brown was way back yonder and Bone was done. He said, the Thunder Dog's minus. And I'm sitting there looking at him foaming at the mouth of coons right there. And Annie's up on the tree. He was straight behind her.
Yeah,
She wouldn't let him up there, but he wasn't milling. They said he put his nose on the ground. They minus me.
really?
And that
Oh,
changed the whole
both ways.
outlook.
Yeah,
Huh?
Took it both ways since
Yeah.
she was there, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah,
And
you got hit strike.
Yeah,
your
that
strike
knocked
minus
me
two.
out of getting in the top 4.
Really?
And they called timeout on me once, and he had a coon trade, and I heard him say that he won't never catch old Thunder. And I beat them to the truck. See what I'm saying? And it was a big point in my life
Yeah.
because James asked me, was Thunder on the ground? And I said, no, sir. I said, he's going to buy me a brand new pickup truck.
Yeah.
He said, when we get home, I done talked to Linda, and he said, you got one coming, you win this thing. So they knocked me out of it.
Yeah.
And he quit that hunt.
So
He
that was
said,
a big ripple effect, just that
Yeah.
one call.
Yeah, that one call.
It was a wild time back then because I never
Oh,
got.
yeah.
I mean, I was hunting then, but I'm hunting local UKC stuff and just started hunting. I think I was a PKC member in 2000. I think so. It was 4 years after that before I was even a PKC member. And so, but you hear these stories, you know, and now it's a different situation. Everybody's got a cell phone. Everybody's got a camera. A lot of times there's cameras in the woods in these finals. Now, don't get me wrong, people still pull some stuff and everything.
Yeah.
But what was it like, any of you guys, you know, in the mid 90s? Did you really have to keep an eye out for stuff like this in these bigger hunts? Because you hear, you know, I've done this with Russ Baylor, and I've sat down with Mr. Russ, and he talked about, you know, guys wearing wigs because they were barred so they could go hunt a dog,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
and you could hear guys in the woods pulling dogs off trees, you know, you think,
Right.
you know, Stretch got caught doing that. I mean, everybody knows it, you know.
Yeah.
So was it really that wild, or was it just?
It's pretty wild, I tell you. I wasn't a guy.
It was pretty wild.
Yeah,
I recall I was in a truck hunt one night in Mississippi at the boat, and I had a little dip I was hunting called Molly. She wasn't a very big dip, but she was all dog. She was kind of low end, medium to low end strike dog, but she was the first street dog simply because she's mostly by herself. But at the end of the day, the dog treed a tree, and the judge was judging with the young boy, and I had judged a lot, and I've judged a lot. The young man, I'm gonna paraphrase this, the young man asked me the other day, so man, how many casts do you think you've judged? I said, the last count I had, they used to kind of keep count of the number of casts. Roy did. Roy was a tremendous administrator. I really liked him, and he asked me, I said, well, I don't know. The last count I had, Roy was keeping up with his judges, you know, when we have the bigger hunts. They would pay us pretty good to come in and judge, like the National, the World Championship, the finals. And I remember that Tam Young and I judged the final. Meeks came to me and said, I'll pay you extra if you judge this final cast. I said, well, the only way I would if you let Tam Young go along with my assistant. And he placed all the responsibility on me before we turned loose. And I told the boys I had Ronnie Bones, I had Junior Jackson's brother, what was his name?
Doug Jackson.
And I had one of Russ Bella's handlers. And I don't remember the other guy, but we had Cracker in the cast. We had 2 or 3 of them top dogs. And I asked Tam, if you take the lead out, said, I'll bring up the rear. And Tam said, well, I'll take the lead if you bring the rear up. And we kept them in between us because we had the guns out there. There's no question about it. We treated 9 coons, I believe. And on the last tree, Doug was delivering the tree his dog, and that Cracker was winning it. And this dog just been following us. We had the time running on him. He just popped off the road. There's about 15 of us out there. I'm in the back, Tam in the front. And he told them, man up front, fellas, want no trouble, no mouthing. We're going to place you in this hunt. We're going to place you where I want you, where I can keep an eye on you. He said, and then you know why I'm doing this. But this dog, we were sitting on a log. That dog had been laying around. He was tired. And all of a sudden, he just threw his head up. And he didn't go 25 yards. We could see him without lights on. He hit that bar ditch and went about as far, maybe a little bit farther than the trucks, which that's about 20 yards, 25, and just fell tree. And Bones said, he looked at Doug, and Doug said, Doug was winning at the time. He said, I don't want to.
Was that Whitey?
take that. It may have, Doug was hunting, it may have been a Whitey, one of those dogs. And he didn't treat. Cracker come in and swallowed it, the Bones tree. And Doug still didn't tree. And Bones took off, and Tam said, Bones, don't you run ahead of anybody. You do, I'm going to scratch. I'm not going to tell you anymore. And before we got to the tree, that dog had a sign, 2 kids. And up a tree but less than, about 10 foot tall. She was still climbing when we got there. And Doug could have blown it over right there. But the point is, you talk about how things were in those days. And when you look at it, you find the goodness in it. I mean, these guys are competing, and Bone won. I think we paid $25,000 at that point for first place. Yeah, Bone won that $25,000 with Cracker. But I won the truck that night, and I had a similar situation that Eddie had. This little Jeep trail under the tree that they were shining and went about as far from here as your bar there, and just sat down and treat. And this young guy said, "What?" I said, he said, "What must I do?" I said, "Well, I haven't declared a tree." And these other guys had a big cypress tree, had about enough sticks in it to cover a rat, but he gave them benefit of the doubt. He circled it, and I treed my dog. And there was another blue Jeep still trailing. He was supposed to have let them lead that dog off and turn them loose. I don't think the minute wasn't even in it and played in. He just threw his light up. He said, "Fellas, I don't need to move out of my track. I got her coon, let's go." Ronnie Johnson filed a question. And they took that coon from me because he didn't let them guys take them dogs off that tree.
Really?
And the minute was just coming in, but I lost the truck right there. Larry Meeks writes, he types me a 3-page small type letter the next week. He said, "I heard about the situation." He said, "I'm gonna have one of my employees to drive your truck out to the ranch." And I kind of replied to him, told him, "Larry, I'd rather not have a truck. I don't want a truck." I said, "I got several little trucks around here," and I said, "That's not what I was after."
Yeah.
Now that's probably one of the most memorable moments in my life. I never got in the world. I mean, I never won a world hunt, but I placed several times with several different dogs.
Yeah.
When they had it at Aurora. And but all in all, it wasn't so much about being a coon hunter, but the people that I was having relationships with at the time, meeting different people, I think it really did enhance my ability to get along and move around in this world and try to do some good for everybody that I come in contact with.
Well, you got more wisdom now.
Yeah, by all means, I would like to think.
Well, Guy has always been someone that looked for the best in everybody.
Yeah.
Always has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ever since, I mean, I've known you for not as long as these guys have, but I've known Guy for quite a while. He always seemed to take the best that everybody could offer, even when I look at somebody and think they don't offer much. Guy's
Yeah,
always
right.
really been
Oh,
really
yeah.
good. And that's a very good trait to have.
I
That's
appreciate that.
But when you get a situation like Eddie just went through with Thunder, it's hard to find any good in any of those folks.
Yeah,
sure it is, sure it is.
but I forgave him
Yeah.
because I know it ain't.
Well, you and Bones are good friends.
Yeah,
I mean,
we're still good friends.
It's all forgotten.
It's
but
all underneath the
in the heat
bridge.
of the moment, it wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I
But-
was wondering is like, how do you come back from that? How long did it take you to come back from
It
that?
took a while.
Yeah.
And he admitted it to Guy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, later on. So that, it just wasn't none of that stuff that I made up.
Yeah. Oh, no. I'm
And,
not saying that, but I'm just,
And they knew, so it didn't bother them as much
right.
because they had it planned.
Yeah.
Because Annie won the world hunt the year before.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they were going to make her two-time world champion.
Yeah. And
But
so
Gate wound up winning it, but he wouldn't have if they didn't do what they done.
what was left with you and Thunder after that? I mean, did you guys
Oh,
get
I
right
won-
back at it? Or
Yeah,
did you,
I won second in the Nationals.
Yeah.
The very next time, I hauled him and traded the only coon we seen, and he climbed up in the leaves. Everybody seen him but the judge.
No kidding.
$6,000 coon back
Yeah.
in, and I won 6,000, and he traded the only coon we seen.
Yeah.
And he won about 3 or 4 pro hunts, second in some, and
The Thunder, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go
He
ahead.
probably wouldn't, these hour and a half hunts,
Mhm.
he wouldn't have half that money. He was, last 5-10 minutes, don't count him out. That son gonna be under a coon's
Yeah.
with them 2-hour casts back
So
in.
you just wanted to stay within one coon,
yeah.
until that time
That's
run.
right.
And
He was
you felt
poison,
pretty
man.
good.
He was poison. He was, he was deep and lonely for such a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, just natural.
I tell the story. One night I got a dog, and Gene Whoopenberg, he told me, Jenkins, won't you get you a dog that can win a hunt? You can't pay no $800 for a dog. Well, I drew out with Gene and told Wesley, you can hunt Thunder and that. He's the only one that ever hunted him,
Yeah.
besides me. And that dog treed 3 coons I was hunting, and I petted him. I said, you can't win a hunt. And Gene was pulling his dog off. Said, you $800 dog. Gene was prancing around. And I never forget it, at Sulphur Springs. I walked up to the door. I said, well, how'd you do? He said, man, that was like driving a Cadillac compared to a Volkswagen. My dog, I got
Good
550.
comparison, but
Oh,
that's a good
man.
one,
He said, I got 550 plus.
They
And,
scarred him up. I was just sitting there going, now this is easy with the
But
good
he
dog.
was, he's one of the all-time dogs,
Yeah. What was he out of?
He's just out some old backwood dogs. I think he had a little blue tick in his, way back in his 3 generation.
Yeah.
Single registered dog with yellow papers.
Really?
Yeah.
And that wasn't very common back then to
Yeah.
go to, I mean, there was a lot of those dogs around, but you didn't see
Yeah.
them winning pro hunts and
Yeah.
getting
No,
to
you
finals of
didn't. No,
nationals
that's
and all
right.
that stuff.
Well,
either.
he was a can that he left, and he had one thing on his mind, that's treeing coons.
Yeah.
And I got beat a bunch, fair and square.
Yeah.
But but he'd win a share, know.
Well, Wesley, was you asking for Thunder after that pretty
I
regular
was.
basis?
I
or-
was. He done got a little age on him by then, but I drew Donald Dodd. He just passed recently, and Landon and Brian, they're good people. And I drew Donald, and who else was that? I can't
That
remember.
boy up by Gainesville
And
had that Jill.
he treated just 3 singles like popping popcorn. I was sitting there going, man, I gotta go back to hunting my gun. You know what I'm saying? But and Mr. Manning had a great dog. I loved RJ. I've been with RJ many nights, and man, that dog could treat them coons.
Yeah.
No other dog knew was around.
Yeah.
Just had the nose to pick them coons off. And
Got
I ain't never gonna compete. They're hunting these type dogs, and my first decent dog I bought from Guy and Richie.
Yeah.
His name was Matthew. And man, we hit the road.
Yeah.
$25 hero, $25 lessons. I got a many of them.
Guy, well, a lot of these guys, especially someone that's been so serious as Guy has, all these years, they've had so many good dogs.
That's right.
coming in and out of their hands.
Yeah, I learned a lot. Did my guy.
Yeah, we did.
But
Yeah.
what about RJ? Tell me about RJ.
Well, RJ was out of my old line of dogs that goes back to old Finley River Chief. John Monroe, I did a lot of research on him over the years, and a lot of the people up north, and I don't want to, use a race of people here, but I'm going to use this, and I hope the Amish people won't get angry. Those are some people that I
There
really
won't be no
admire.
Amish people listening to this. You'll be all right.
But those people hunted for the worth of the hunt, and they had some good trailing dogs, and that has always said. I remember when the hunts used to be 4 hours,
Yeah.
and I never did hunt in a 5 hour, but I remember when the old Mountain Music hunt was 5 hours, when a man named John McDonald, who was a world-renowned black and tan breeder who's since passed on, would have those kind of dogs, and James Merchant, Joe House, Mr. Lester Nance,
Yeah.
all those guys. I relish their reputation with dogs, and in my home, in my office at home, I can go back and give you archives back in the early 1900s, when there was no such thing as a competition hunt sanctioned by an organization. These people would get together as a community and socialize and hunt, and that was kind of intriguing to me. But RJ came. I started off with some Finley River dogs that my oldest brother, who has since passed on, and he's in his grave. And I started breeding those dogs. I didn't know about registering dogs, and I had an old dog that was out of Bean Blossom Buck, but Pride Gann's old dog called Bean Blossom Bounce that I owned. And I took them old dogs and I crossed them up, man. If they run in tree, we'd breed them.
Yep.
And but little did we know, little did I ever know, I even dreamed of the fact that it would get to a point like this. And RJ was out of my old line of dogs. Didn't have a big booming mouth, but enough you could hear. It was pretty, but it was a good ball mouth. And he could be just ambling out there and just fall the tree, just come in there and just matter of a few seconds, he could be on the coon. He could locate a coon. And that's what I don't see a lot these days. We got trailing dogs that see who can get to the first mile the fastest and before they start hunting. But RJ, in those days, RJ, the last count we had on him, he wasn't very far behind Cracker. Cracker did the little female break the $100,000 mark first.
I think Cracker broke it before
Yeah, I think,
Molly
okay,
did.
Mill Creek Molly came on out.
Yeah.
Well, see, I was right around the $85,000. Me and Eddie were the highest money winners in Texas for a long time till these young guys came on, and we was running. Eddie won a lot of money and for the times. And even in this day and time, I'll take a $100,000 bill anywhere, anytime.
Yeah.
But yeah, we won right at $100,000 before RJ died. And these in $25, $15. I remember when hunts were $10.
Yeah.
And you may have 30 or 40 dogs at a hunt like that.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked the question a few minutes ago while we was conversing, are we pricing ourselves out of the business?
Yeah.
Because it's just a select market out there that can afford to put these dogs in these $6,500 entry fee hunts.
Yeah.
But I'll take an RJ any day in my life if I could get one.
How many hunters were there back then? Let's say late 70s, early 80s. How many hunters were there here in this area in East Texas compared to what there is now?
It was a lot.
Yeah.
I was president of the state during that time. And in my records, I still got all that stuff. We had close to anywhere at any given time you could go to a hunt, not only on the weekends, but during the week as well. We had about 29, anywhere between 29 and 35 clubs in the state of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, if you went to especially a 500 added or $25 hunt by 500 added or $50 hunt, I never remember hunt being $1,000 till several years on into on into our campaigns. But if you had a $25 hunt and a $500 added, you had 50 or 60 dogs.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't surprise me. There have been several times when we hit the 70 mark.
Yeah.
And people hunted. And we had some problems, but not many. We had a panel. That vehicle, the way we get panels that's built into the organization really does help.
Yeah.
Because people know if you act up, you stand a chance of having to pay the price. And but yeah, we had a lot of hunters. I'd be afraid to say the number, but you pretty well feel a hunt when you, whether it was in Iola, whether it was in Percyville, whether it was in Russ, Texas, whether it was in Palestine, you name it. We had about 25, 30 clubs on average.
It had to have been hard back then compared to now. Well, maybe that's the wrong way to say it, but it just had to be hard right then to rise to the top like you guys did, winning $100,000
Yes.
with all these hunters and all that stuff.
Yes.
Probably. I mean, I don't want to say because it's still hard. You know,
Yeah,
don't get me
right,
wrong. It's
right.
hard now. It's probably harder back then.
Sure
Would
it
you
is.
guys agree?
Oh,
Sure it is.
yeah.
By all means.
Yeah.
Sure it is.
And
I got a little bitch at home now. She's 10, and she's been my personal hunting dog most of her life. I put in 8 hunts, and I only need, and I put in 1 big hunt, and I got her in, got a second out of the black-eyed pea hunt. She only need $182 to be a gold champion, and I just pleasure hunted all the time with pups and all that. And I'm right now trying to get in season to try to get her bred. I don't know what kind of luck I'm gonna have, but I'm using wheat germ oil, one of the old ranges I used for years.
Yep.
Yeah, and so my point is, like you were saying, how complex it was to get to that point. And he was a top guy. And no question, everybody, you drew Eddie Jenkins, buddy. It was, you had your work cut out because he was all business and he was following the Coon dog.
And it wasn't just one dog. It was multiple dogs.
No, that's right.
I know the only time I drew Eddie, that was a pretty good dog too. Now you was cussing him at the end of the night.
Yeah.
what color was that one? That was a blue one, wasn't it?
It was a blue one. I actually come back and told Garrett even. I said, that's a pretty nice blue dog.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story back in. Eddie called me. He said, "Hey, Percival's got a $25 hunt tonight. It's 18 degrees, wind chill's down to 8." He said, "Let's go pick up a little state money. Ain't nobody gonna hunt." When you go down Percival, it had a little hill right before you got to the club. 44 dogs that night. And I drew Eddie. He had a Great Dane dog. I mean, that son gun was and we was walking across that field, that north wind was hitting us, and I said, "Son, I mean, we're cold. We ain't used to that mess." And we seen some eyes up in that tree. I said, "That SOB's got that coon." And that was that dog stretched up about it. But he did have a coon, and I believe only 1 or 2 coons got treated. And Eddie got in that night. But that's how many people hunted back then.
Yeah, he was as long as this stable here, and his name, he was out of Yakin River Jughead, what he was out of.
Yeah.
He was that tall, and you couldn't catch him
What
with
was
the
his
seine
name?
net.
Boss?
Yeah.
Boss.
Nobody couldn't catch him with
But,
the seine net. He was the one man's dog.
Really?
You know, back in 350, 400, you're not safe.
Yeah.
No.
You're listening to get bumped off the bubble with that. You
really.
know, there's some coon treeing going on back here, and you wasn't safe with all them dogs there playing 4 spots out. You know, it was good times though. I wouldn't trade it for nothing.
But I got to the point where I sold a lot of dogs, kind of like you do.
Yep.
And I ain't no high dollar man, but I sold a many of them, ain't I, guy?
Oh,
You
yeah.
remember Abby?
Yeah, I remember Abby.
We
Yes,
went.
sir.
I found the Jeep down there, and the guy said, "Well, I need to roof my house," and you bought her.
Yeah.
And
went with
She
you.
went on
I
the
rode with you that night. I
Yep,
believe.
that's right. Sure
Sure
was.
did. We got
He
in
made
the daylight. I woke up. I took a nap. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
And I was like, "Yes." I looked over at Guy. He looked just like RJ. I said, "Guy, you look just like RJ." And we'd like to top that truck over laughing.
Yeah, but
Good times. But he brung that little Jeep in there. And
Oh, man,
she went into winning immediately.
Yeah,
Just a
she
nice
did.
little
And
Jeep.
I had to let her make the Mill Creek Molly too. I drove to Merchant's house and bought him. And Brent Cantrell wanted all of it. I departed right away. He gave me a pretty good profit. And that dog slick trade every night. And finally something clicked. He put in a tree and coons.
Yeah.
And he died of some kind of respiratory deal, but I never forget it. We was at the showcase there in Aurora, and somebody said, "What'd you do?" And he said, "Some dog beat us from Texas," and Brent had a cigarette in both hands. That dog scored $650, that pup I sold.
No kidding.
You know, it was always a joy to sell a good dog or one that worked out for somebody.
Yeah.
And I didn't try to kill them, but I tell them the truth.
Yeah.
Kind of like you do.
Yeah. Well, that makes it easier.
Sure
You
does.
you can't be
Repeat business.
Yeah, you lie to make one sale, you ain't making
No,
the next.
Yeah,
you're,
maybe
you're
not.
done for.
You
You're
need the
done. You're
repeat
done.
business.
You're
That's
done.
right.
And but it's been a pleasure, the coon hunting part. You know,
When did you guys see the dogs change styles to this? And no dogs are together. Everything's spread throughout the country. We're walking 10 miles every cast, it seems like. When did that all begin down here? Because every area is different. I found doing this, whether I'm in South Carolina, that's a different group of people, North Carolina, South Carolina, around my house, down here in East Texas. When did you guys see that switch to these style of dogs that we're hunting now?
I don't really know because I quit there for a while. You know,
Yeah,
I
when-
think when the handhelds come out.
Really?
Yep,
That's
I would
when
too.
I mean, that's when you could see what they was doing
Yeah.
and start.
Yeah.
In the past, you didn't know.
Yeah.
Dog might go check a dog over here. You might not ever know what he might
Right.
go on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we would be able to chest out them a bit if they did that. But I think I observed it. I've gotten out of it simply because of health reasons, but I've still tried to remain pretty close by using handlers and things like that. But I thought I saw the biggest switch, the going to, if I may use this statement, in the early 2000s and in the 2005 to the 10 through the 15, when dogs was more apt. If you cut 4 dogs' head, they just split like a covey of quail. And I made the statement about 3 or 4 years ago. We had 4 dogs, and we had one here, one there, and one here. And it was about 10 or 15 people out there, and I just made the statement. I'm hobbling on with my stick. I said, fellas, where's coon hunting? And I know older men, older than I am, they would not own a dog if he did not pack.
Yeah.
And by nature, dogs is a packing animal. They run in packs. And I'm not saying man has been one of the greatest creations that God made, if I may use that term, and he won't hold it against me. But we tend to mess up a lot more a lot of times than we fix. Trying to put the improvements on them. And man, if a dog pack, he can't stay in a man's kennel, especially these guys that ride the big circuit, and any circuit. They want them by themselves. And there's some good in that, if I'm not going to lose them all. I'm not going to win them all by myself, but I shouldn't lose them all either.
Yeah.
If you fall into decent dogs.
Do you think it's ever going to change and go back?
I think we've kind of bred them that way now.
Yeah.
I'm seeing more pups come now that's more natural to want to be out there running rabbits by themselves or catching people, the farmer's ducks or whatever.
Yeah.
They've done it by themselves. And I don't know. I've been in the cow business for many years, and I've shown that Charolais cattle. I've bred Charolais cattle for 40 years. I have a friend in Houston who's in the cutting horse business. I've seen in his past away, he got his brood mares, little coats when the mares start folding. Man, you better not run nothing in front of them little old coats. Them little boogers just automatically fall to the ground, cutting it off. Now, that's got to be in the DNA.
Yeah.
Where another old deadhead, a horse, man, he may not even pay it any attention. And the same thing with cattle. And you can just walk in a herd of cattle if you know your genetics, and you can just about at an early age pick the ones that's going to be, that may go to the show range.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's man's study of the trending from disposition to production, to even milk production, to beef, to ability to reproduce its own kind, and I don't know if that's bad or not.
Yeah.
I really don't. That's a good question. No, that's a very good question.
I don't think it'll change.
I don't see it changing anytime soon. But you look, and I'm kind of wrapping around this a little bit too, because we're talking about the number of hunters, and I know I don't have the problem in my part of the world. We got big country, we got no people, we get along pretty good with our deer hunters. I can go turn loose in a Grand River bottom and hunt 6-7 miles and never have any trouble.
Right, right.
But you get into Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, places like that, or even parts down here.
That's right.
The ground's shrinking.
It
in
is.
a lot of
It
places.
really is.
And it's hard to hold 4 of these dogs.
It's hard.
It's super hunt week. We've got 4 dogs. We're going to turn loose back here,
Right.
in just a few days. And there's miles they can go and still be safe. And I
Right.
still worry.
Sure you
about the
do.
dog blowing
Sure you
out,
do.
So I wonder if that won't drive some change the other way, because we've already proven to ourselves that we can change these dogs in 5 or 6 generations.
Right.
It don't take long
Right.
to get that back. That's millions of years of DNA that says I need to be with this other dog. I don't
Right.
think it would be hard to get it back. I just don't know if we'll ever do it.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. So right where we sit here in the state of Texas, in the eastern part of Texas, by 1940, there's going to be another influx of 8 million people come to Texas. And everywhere you look, if there's a piece of property, whether it's 40 by 40, people are buying it out the east and out the west.
Yep.
And I looked at the bird dog people. I used to field trial bird dogs. When we went to Grand Junction, Tennessee, or we go up in Illinois, it wasn't nothing.
Yep.
When you turn them bird dogs loose, they gone, and you got to have enough open country that you can see them, because we're horseback. And this used to be the same thing, just a few miles from here, over in Tyler, Texas. It was a doctor over there, was a great bird dog man, and he had his handlers, and you could turn them dogs loose, and they could go, like you said, for miles, and never feel like they may be getting out of danger, or they were getting in danger. And the same thing, if that many people coming into Texas, where are all these people gonna be housed?
Yeah.
Everywhere in Texas, especially, you're seeing this subdivision, that subdivision, or this corporate structure going up. And you cannot hold 4 of them dogs that's running like that.
Yeah.
And what bird dog people have done, they've kind of condensed their range that they need to field trial these dogs. There's still a lot of field trial, and they've gone more to actually planting domestic game, birds, and shooting within you take 100 acres and run a trial all day.
Yep.
But them dogs ain't gonna get no more than 50, 60, maybe 100 yards. And when they point, they kill the game.
Yeah. So,
But that's another good question. Where's the sport going?
Well, when I sat down here with guys like you and Eddie that have got to see it come throughout the years, and Wesley to an extent too. Of course, I'm not ageism or anything, but Wesley's a younger guy.
No, these are our kids, man. We love our kids. Yes, sir.
But it's evolved to this point. It's going to keep evolving one way or the other. We're either going to get bigger, wilder, faster dogs. And another thing is talent. For me, it's really hard because it's hard to gauge talent with dogs that pack when a guy that's spent most of his life with dogs that aren't packing.
Right.
So we've lost a lot of things because these dogs don't pack. That one bark tree dog.
Right.
Everybody used to have a one bark tree dog because they was all together.
Yeah, right.
The bigger, louder locate gets treed
Gets
first.
treed for it. That's
And
right.
everybody else right behind it. Bang, 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 bang. Well, you get that one great big, one bark tree dog, you got an advantage.
Right.
We don't need that anymore.
No.
We can have a little soft carrying mouth dog that I can hear
That's
from a
right.
long ways away.
Let them settle in.
Yeah, it don't matter. You
Yeah,
can leave
let
it
'em
set there for
settle
4 or
in, yeah.
5 minutes of that stationary
That's
run,
right.
making sure, because ain't nothing coming to it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so it's took some of the handling ability out, as well. And so I don't know where it goes, from here. I'd like to think I know, but
Yeah, I understand.
who knows?
Yep.
But when you guys had them dogs back then, and another thing I was going to ask you, when you're making that run into the World Hunt Nationals with a dog like that, they weren't all deep and lonely. You said he was deep and lonely before that was ever a thing. What was it like hunting that dog locally with 3 guys that are used to, packing up on a tree every 300 or 400 yards, and your dog's in
It's
there a
kind of
mile?
tough. You had to walk sometimes.
Were they mad at you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They said, "I hope I don't draw thunder."
Yeah.
That's SOB. We're gonna walk our guts out.
Yeah.
Snuffy,
Yep.
what would you bring his name up? Snuffy Bliss?
Snuffy Bristol, yes.
Drove him one night and thunder across the river in there about 2 miles. Hey, I ain't going to that dog. He said, I'm going to the clubhouse, and Brad Williams had to go back down there, and he's in water back across the river in there. Trade, and we walked about a mile to him. And but
In my
Snuffy wasn't going.
experience, I think Thunder, looking back and thinking back, I think Thunder was one of the pioneers
Yeah.
of that started to be deep and lonely.
Yep.
And I kind of, it intrigued me, but as you said, it did take out some of your ability to handle or not handle the quickness that you needed if you wanted a first tree. You didn't have to get in a big hurry.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember many times, and I couldn't hear him, but Eddie could hear him.
Yeah.
He may be in there 5 or 6, 7, maybe 1,000 yards, and Eddie could tell you exactly where he was, and he didn't have no Garmin at the time.
No.
He could hear.
Yeah.
And I tell him, one guy was saying, man, that guy done hit that dog. I said, just follow him. I said, you know, he ain't got no. In fact, we couldn't even carry our tracking system.
Right. Yeah.
And I said, just follow him. And you were walking there and you'd hear. I said, boys, I said, far as I'm concerned, I'm gonna vote now. If he come back and say he got him, I can save me some yards because my old legs was going on me. I said, he's got a coon.
Yeah.
Yep, sure.
We turned him loose one night there and by the house, and some dogs run some trash. We found him up in Kaufman, about 4 miles. He was straight behind a church.
Yep.
You remember that?
I do.
Yeah.
It was hard to keep a dog like that alive back then.
Yeah.
Sure.
He didn't always do it. I seen
Yeah.
him treat 6 single coons right above past the dogs
Yeah.
before. They took us on a ranch, but sometimes they wanted to show out. He wanted to get deep.
Eddie had that damn antenna he had. It spread out big as this room.
Yep.
I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, but at that time you couldn't carry that on.
That's right. No, I'm talking about after.
Oh, after,
trying to
oh,
wrestle
yeah.
that sucker up.
That was one of my old ATSs. Remember the one in the
Yeah.
box?
I still got one.
Yeah.
We was in Spanish Fort one night, and
Oh,
he got
God.
across some big water, and Eddie said, we might as well park at this gate, go sleep. He'd be in the daylight. And I was like, God, no. Old bird started chirping. Here come that black and white SOB straight up that lane in daylight, but he treating there all night. Couldn't get to him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Couldn't get to him.
Yeah, he had a thing about when he traded across the river, if you couldn't get to him in daylight, he'd be right there.
Yeah. What about if he was just trading, you couldn't find him or something like that? You know?
He'd probably trade you until you found him.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
But he knew he was across that water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Brains is a big deal.
Sure
on
it is.
dogs like that.
yeah.
And
So,
you guys correct me if I'm wrong. I think dogs are a touch more intelligent now. You know, after all these years.
I do too.
Oh, I mean, I'm not I wouldn't disagree with
Yeah.
that at all.
Yeah,
Sure
I
would.
really do. I got one now that I wouldn't take 10,000 for, and
Yeah.
I'm a dog jockey
Yeah.
now. I just tell you the truth. And I got a head full of brains.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he ain't that good a dog, but he
What's
suits
he out
me.
of, Hunter?
Yeah, he's out of Hunter and a
Yeah.
Schooner River
Yeah.
dot. You know,
I'm
that's
familiar.
that bear stuff.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that cross, I promise you. And
Are you?
Hunter dogs, of course, he lives right by me. John Monroe lives right
Yeah,
by me
yeah.
too. You know, they're right there close to each other, him and Zach. But Hunter is notorious for throwing super intelligent dogs.
Well, that's
Super
what I
intelligent
see in the
dogs.
dog.
Yeah.
He traded a coon the other night, and they wasn't moving, and he hunted all the way past the truck, and he come up a creek and looked at me. He knew where them coons was where he
Yeah.
traded. He took off. I looked at it, he's 800.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, left-handed, about 5 something, he jammed one.
Yeah.
So he's got the knack to know where they at. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If they ain't moving there, go back where you trade
Yeah.
one.
And those dogs that are that smart create a different kind of training problem.
They
Oh,
do.
yeah.
Yeah.
You can't make mistakes with dogs that are that
That's right.
intelligent.
Set you
See,
back.
and I'm kind of
Yeah.
scared.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
told Guy, I care less I ever put in a hunt.
Yeah.
Because it's the first one I had in 15 years that I like. You know what I mean? That I
Yeah.
actually enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's important.
And I prayed I run him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you
Because
could. So
he
you don't-
likes packing a little bit of hunting, but if you get after him a little bit, he'll drop what he's doing. He'll go in there and just bang,
Yeah.
tree a coon like
Yeah.
it's easy.
Yeah. Being able to know what a handler wants is 90% of making
Sure,
a good dog.
sure.
Yeah,
Because it's a team effort.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a team effort.
What about dogs? Of course, we've talked about Thunder, we've talked about RJ. What other dogs have you guys have had that really, really come to mind?
I had an old dog called Patch.
Yeah.
He was out of Yakin River, Sailor.
Yeah.
He's one of the best ones too. I hunted him the first year. I hunted him 35 casts, 127 with him.
No
Can't beat
kidding.
that.
And the next spring, I hunted him 15, 111. Natural born coon trigger.
Yeah. Just come by
Pleasure
it
to
honest.
hunt.
Just come by it. Just what he was what he was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, you better not cock that gun around that black and white son. You know when that gun was out there.
He did.
Oh, man.
When
That
he
dog
trade-
was very smart.
He traded 3 singles one night, and the guy reached to get a dip of snuff, and he seen him reach. He just stopped treeing. look, you know, he was just getting a,
They
you know, he thought it was
Thought he
just
had a
shoot.
gun in his pocket. Yeah.
Yeah, he traded many a coon, and it was a pleasure to hunt. And I took him to World Hunt one time and got in the finals with him. That was an honor.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
old black and white dog.
Yep.
And but I drew out with Hustler. That was a mate's dog, wasn't
Yep.
it?
Yeah, that was.
And
No,
Mustang.
I thought Bella's on. Did Bella own Hustler?
He owned a Hustler,
Yeah,
but
he
this
owned-
was
it was
the
a
one that
different
mates
yeah.
had.
Mhm.
And Mustang Sally, and it come down to his second round. They was running through there, and old Hustler hit a tree, and he kept going. Never forget it.
Yeah.
And Sally done the same thing right behind him, and she kept going, and he come along there, snagged it. I traded him, the hunt run out, had a coon, I was in the finals.
No kidding.
First time I ever took him to town, you know,
Yeah,
it was big.
That's good.
And he fit right in.
What is, both you and Guy have been in some big hunts, and you've been in, I've never made it to a world final. I've never made the final nationals. You know, I've got close to super stakes. I've got close a few times. But what is that feeling when you know you're getting ready to go to a Final Four of a major event like that, or nationals, or a truck hunt, or something like that? Is there anything that you found that can emulate that?
Yeah, it makes me have a little butterfly sometimes, even though I hunted a lot.
Yeah.
I wanted to win,
Yeah.
but sometimes you can't. But it's a different feeling, ain't it?
It is that. It is that. Oh, it's a wonderful feeling, no question about it. But I've troughed and tried hard, and I made a vow, and I've broken that vow. Some I pray the Lord if He allowed me to get to that point and enjoy some of the things that I thought I liked, that I would never miss church on Sunday morning. After coming in from a Saturday night on. Now, I've done that. Probably as recent as this last weekend, we had one up in Corsicana. But I think the birth of my son would probably would be above that.
Yeah.
I've had, you asked Eddie, but he was telling you about Pat. The other dog that I owned that came to mind was a Jip I had called Annie Mae. She was a black and white female off of J.P. Langland's old dog won the national. I had him in mind. Frankie Deuce handled him.
High style.
High style.
Yeah.
JP's high
Yeah.
style. Yeah. She could run a deer. And in a 2-hour hunt, she could run a deer. A big part of that 2 hours, if not a whole hour, come back and win 80. Now, I'm serious, 80% of her kills.
Really?
Yes. And I made her a dual grand when that was as far as perhaps we could go. She was ACHA and night champion. And I put in the national one night. And I got her in the finals. And I ended up selling that Jip to the guy in Aurora, Kentucky. He was a hellacious dog, man. I'm trying to think of his name. Every time I try to think of his name, I can't. He could squall. Ain't no coon squaller ever been made that he couldn't surpass with his calling just with his mouth. Oh man, I'm looking at him. But anyhow, Larry Meeks ended up with her. And she was a ball-mouthed tree dog, but she had the greatest change.
Yeah.
And Larry ended up selling her to a kennel in New York who were breeders. And that woman sent me videos they've never heard a dog treat like that. She cried like a lady.
Really?
Yes, and when she went on a tree, it was no question about what she was doing, and it didn't make a difference. You could run this truck over this house, and that's where you'd find the dead, because if she come hooked. And I ended up winning right at that, during that time, I kept her about 2 years, and I ended up winning right at $40,000 with her in $25 hunt. And the highest I ever went to was a $50 500 at it.
Yeah.
You hunted in a blue ribbon too.
Yeah, I did.
We drew
yeah.
out together.
That's right, sure
Brian,
did.
Ronnie Bone and that Sonny Richardson.
That's exactly right, sure
Yep.
did. I forgot about that.
I was scared that night because she'd been through a lot of country.
Yeah, she had. But if she got the right deal, she'd put a little more time on him than I would like for her to.
Yeah.
But Larry thought she she became his personal hunt dog till that kennel. I don't know what they got for it, wasn't my concern. But Larry told me, he said, I tell you what I'm gonna do. He said, I got a little pups coming. She's been such a pleasure to me, I'm gonna send you 2 of the top picks. And he did, send me a male and female.
Yeah.
And so I believe y'all ended up buying the male, because I gave the male to my nephew named Richie Manning, used to drive me around all the time for 20-some years. And I gave him that pup he made, and they gave it wasn't Pal, maybe it was Pal that bought that dog.
Plainer.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
$4,000.
Yeah.
$4,000.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Yep.
And I kept a little female, and she was a good one. And I ended up selling her to a young man by the name of Ronnie Johnson. And still to this day, and it's been a while, it's been a year maybe. I'm trying to think of this guy's name in Kentucky. Everybody know him, but I can't right now. She was just kind of special, even with all of the baggage she had.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was.
When you talk about selling dogs, you talk about selling her, you'd won 40 grand with her in a couple of years where it was hard to do. Eddie's talking about getting rid of dogs and he sold them for this and sold them for that. Has it always been easy to just sell one and get another? I mean, because for me, it sounds crude to some people that,
Yeah, it does.
you know, a retriever guy buys one lab and he hunts with it all his life and then he buries it or he gets it cremated and carries the ashes around like it's a person and all that stuff. You know, it's different for other, you know, working dog owners sometimes, or even pet owners or something like that, to hear this, that, oh my gosh, these dogs done all these special things, and we are attached to them. I personally am, where I'm attached to those 2 or 3 years I had with that dog, or even that 18 months I had with that dog, but I'm not necessarily attached to the dog. I've never had one that I wouldn't sell for the right amount of money. But not that we don't take care of them or we don't love them or like them or whatever, but it's just a different kind of side of our sport as compared to everything else. Have you guys ever had any trouble selling a dog? Have you regretted selling a dog? And have you ever had anything that you absolutely would not sell for any amount of money?
I never sold one that I liked, like Thunder or Patch. They died
Right.
at the house.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what
no
our
sense of selling them.
Yeah.
That's where RJ is.
Yep.
He's buried on the ranch. And I had his daddy, which was out of a son of Spring Creek Rock. He's buried on the ranch. Those are about the only two, and I was offered pretty good money for the
Yeah.
times for both of those dogs. But right today, I can take you to that graveside.
Yeah.
And RJ's grandmother, who was my rock dog's mother, she was out of Boone.
Dahoney Boone?
Dahoney.
Yeah.
No, she was Mike Boone, who was a hide buyer. He was I understand, pretty well off. He owned a daddy called Dahoney Boone, I believe. Was old Rachel's daddy, so I had kind of a line bred, if you want to call it that, Spring Creek Rock dog. But those two dogs were buried on the ranch, right outside of my bullpen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but they, for the time, that would have been a remarkable price. It would have been somewhere in the neighborhood of $60,000-$70,000 now.
Yeah.
But and RJ last 2 years, I never hunted him.
You don't regret it?
No regret it at all.
You never kept one that you regretted keeping?
No, I had one called Luke, the drifter,
I remember him.
and he's buried out there too. Wesley and his dad, he was 10 years old, and I let him take him. He treed coons till the day he died.
Sure enough.
Accurate.
Track dog.
Yeah.
Track dog.
Track them up, tree 'em.
Finley River
Creek
bred
bank
dog.
specialist.
Yeah.
He was
And,
a creek bank
but I
specialist.
buried
for sure.
him. I ain't never saw one that I really, you know what I'm saying, that
Yeah.
had a lot of good times with.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
comes easy if you got a dog like Dauber.
Yep.
I bought him from Ronnie Bone's daddy. He'd run anything, but he'd treat 3 coons in a row and then run a coyote out of here and then be
Yeah.
right back at your feet. I sold him to
Yeah.
Jimmy Guess. But it wasn't nothing wrong with the dog, but I couldn't stand some of that stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
It's hard to find, especially, you know, because our bar's so high, it's hard to find a dog that you like night in, night out, and you ain't gonna like them every night. Even the
Yeah.
greatest ones, you ain't gonna
Right,
like every
right,
night.
right.
But if you like a dog 8 out of 10 nights, that is a special animal.
It's special.
I mean, a very
That's
special
it.
animal.
It's,
And they are hard to find.
They are.
well,
They
see,
are.
the way that worked, even though I didn't really like him, me and Wesley, we was in partners on him.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Gale said, "You bring me up here, I'll give you $1,500 for it." And I was broke. I was young and
Yeah.
everything, trying to support a family and all that. But I got up there, and Jimmy, he's a man of his word.
Sure he was. Sure he was.
Pulled in there, and he said, "You want to go hunting that?" And I said, "Man, that cat ain't gonna pay me." I done like his hair, that's funny, you know. Jimmy's sitting there and he said, well, if you ain't going hunting, here's your $200 for bringing him. Here's $1,500 for the dog. Come on, I'll buy you a big steak dinner. And I got that money. Wadded up in there and we got to eating that big steak. I looked at Jimmy, I said, I'm feeling a little bit better now, we'll go. Jimmy said, let's go over and get you a room, man. Thank God Dauber didn't run a deer out of the country. He treated coon, and Jimmy said, I'm satisfied. Well, it worked out. Jimmy sold him for $3,500. Some guy called from Illinois, $8,000. That
Really?
was back in the day,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
He was in a
I
picture.
drew Cleve one night with him, and that crazy sucker run something for 1 hour and 58 minutes, plumb out of here, and I was sitting there looking down, and I looked at my watch, and all of a sudden I heard something go, woo, woo, woo. And I treed that dog, and treed the only coon we seen. He said, Dad, sorry. I mean, he cussed up, he said, that son of a gun, coon hunted for 2 minutes and beat me.
See, he was out of Hayes and Mark Avery. You know Mark Avery?
Yep.
He was out of his old Dehoney's Boone female.
Yep.
And they gave me a pup later on out of that, Joe McBride.
Yep.
You know, the one that had Buzz.
Yep.
And he's a natural. He started treeing coons young, but he died of Giardia.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to treat him with. The vet treated him for parvo.
Yeah.
He
That was
died from what now?
Giardia.
Giardia, yeah.
That was a common misconception till
Yeah.
a lot of them dogs were misdiagnosed with Giardia. when they were young.
But I met a lot of good people, you know, over the country, you know, and
I know we're probably near down there, but I want to just throw this story in about the night I bought Lipper.
Yeah. The night you bought Lipper.
I bought Lipper.
Oh boy, I do want to hear this. This is going to be a good one.
We had a UKC hunt in Frankston, Texas, and it was colder. When we first went over there, there was 27 dogs in the hunt. Tim Ball was there, and we had never drawn each other. And he was asking, said, "Man, I want to draw this man. We need to hunt together." And of course, the hunter right there, Rodney Green was there, Harry Darby. You remember Darby? Used to hunt blue dogs.
Yeah.
And the guy used to hunt for who's the guy that used to hunt for Harry? For Rodney Green.
and Leroy Jenkins.
Leroy Jenkins, there's a bunch of them. Matt Garrett, who was dead in his grave, had told Tommy Hopkins that I know a man couldn't break lip off a deer. I know a man will break this dog and won't break his spirit. And Tommy called me. I says, I heard about the dog. In fact, I had judged him in the first fortuity that was in PKC. I judged him in Liberty, Texas. I was the non-hunt judge, and he won the cast. But he run junk all over them bottoms down there. But he treated a raccoon.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else did. But at the end of the day, Tommy called me. And I said, well, Tommy, I says, I don't know what you want for the dog. He said, I want $5,000. I said, well, I'll be to Franklin this weekend. And I'd made up my mind, I thought about it. I had to check in my truck. I had it already written out. And Tommy said, I want to hunt him in this hunt. Tommy had about 10 second places on him in UKC. Could never get a first. And when we drew out that night, that temperature dropped. You could spit almost. It'd be froze before it hit the ground. I came back to our ranch and hunted another dog that I had. Lipper Tree, the only coon in the whole hunt. It wasn't no 225, it was 200.
Yeah.
And that sucker run about 2 or 3 armadillos in the hole, got minus. He come out with 25 points and won first place. And Tommy changed his mind. I said, well,
No kidding.
I said, yeah. Later on, wasn't very long after then, Tommy had a son out of him called Grip.
Yeah.
He had been scratched at least twice for fighting. And Tommy says, if you can break him, says he's about as loud as Lipper. He says he's a good-looking dog. And I met Tommy in North Houston. I was living in Houston at the time in a shopping center mall parking lot. I wrote him a check for $1,500 for that pup. I took that pup, and the man who's dead now, we broke that pup and fight named Jack Foley. He's dead now. He was hunting a big blue dog. We was hunting a cornfield one night, and it was hot. But the coon was eating that off a prison farm down there. And we treated a coon. That puppy run a coon out and quick. That blue dog kind of slow. He come in on him. And that dog weighed 80, 85 pounds. That pup mounted him. And me and Jack was getting out by the time the blue dog, that puppy been treed.
Yeah.
And he had a coon. And I got that puppy and tied him and got him down. I went to whipping him. Jack went to whipping him. And we weren't trying to kill him. We was mud and water. We wasn't going to hurt him. And we got through, the blue dog jumped on him. We broke that dog that night. I had at least
That
10.
blue dog got some help. He said,
He
"Let me have
did.
some more of that."
He did.
I got him now, boys.
We had him down. And 6 months after I had that dog, I had won 11 second places with that dog. Could never get a first. He was so dang mean.
Yeah.
Mike McAllister called me. He had bought Lippert. Tommy made up his mind that when he got the first American night champion, he was going to break him running deer. He hunted him 21 nights. Lippert treated Coon every night. And the 21st night, Tommy will tell you this today, that dog run a deer almost half the night. And Mac, he called Mac, and Mac gave him $20,000. That's what the rumor was. Now, he gave him $20,000 for Lippert. And Mac didn't have nothing in mind about hunting. I bet you Mac bred 150 gyps to him.
Yeah.
But he told Tommy, I want the best 2-year-old dog in the United States out of Lippert. And Lippert said, and Tommy told him, a guy man and got him in Houston. I knew Mac real well. I'd hunted against him a time or two and been around him quite a lot. And he called me and I said, I want $3,000 for him. And then 3 days later, I get a cashier's check or a money order at the time in the mail. I shipped the dog to him, and Mac didn't keep him 2 months. He sold him to a man out in North Carolina. And that man made him a night champion, a grand night champion. And I saw him, they were studying him. We just had, American Cooner?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Full cry.
Full cry. He was running that dog at stud. Good looking dog, had a miles out of this world. But at the end of the day, this man, and it's so funny how things happen. About 6 months later, this man called me and wanted to sell him because his wife had developed some ailment, he needed money. And I didn't end up buying, but another guy bought him. But my point is, you just don't ever know how the turn of events going to take shape. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, that's why it's important to have people that they don't fret talking to you, or they'll believe what you tell them. Because as you said a few minutes ago, you lie to one man, that's it.
Yep.
You ain't gonna make another sale.
Yep.
No.
And Tommy called me back and asked me that when he had Adios Lightning, and we was getting ready to try to buy him, but the guy out of Georgia bought him, an older man who he had lung cancer, and I drew him in the World Hunt in the UKC World. He was one of the nicest men I ever was. Tommy came to Houston to show me the dog, and I went up on my lease, and that dog treated 4 coons. And before I could get my money raised, this guy in Georgia bought him, and I ended up drawing him in the semifinals of the UKC World, and he won that cast that night.
Yeah.
He sure did. So I said, this thing is bigger than me.
So if Lippert don't tree that one coon that night,
That's right.
he goes home with Guy Manning,
That's right.
and the
I
whole
got-
coon hunting world changes.
It probably would
You
have
ain't
changed.
lying.
Yeah.
Probably would have
'Cause
changed.
he put him on the map. I can tell you
Well,
that,
he
wouldn't he?
would have. He would have. He was a freak.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. That dog was so loud, when he opened his mouth, his eyes bugged out like
Yeah.
a crawfish. And there was no moving him. He could be running the deer through this bottom. I hunted with Lippert quite a few times. I hunted with Demon. I hunted with Striker. All them dogs, I hunted personally with them, not one time, but several times. Dr. Randy Frederick, who first started striking semen from these dogs, he was the one that orchestrated that whole deal, learning how to store. Dog semen is not easy to store.
Yeah.
You can't do it like you can bull semen. It's not that, it's too fragile.
Yeah.
Dr. Frederick was experimenting with that. And Spring Creek Lock lived in his office. I just go there and sit down and play with him at lunchtime.
Really.
Yes, sir. He was old. That was a big, good-looking animal. I don't care if it was an elephant. He was just a good-looking son of a gun. He laid in his office all the time.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
It is when you think about it.
Yes. Yes.
So before we wrap this up, I got a story request from Chance that he wants Eddie to tell on the podcast about and I may pronounce this wrong, the Kabuki kick. And I want to touch on one more thing with Guy too. Guy, you equated getting into the finals, one of them big hunts, or being real successful in something like that, as one of the top moments of your life, and your son, of course, the birth of your son, going to top that. But you had a pretty good basketball career too.
Yes.
I mean, when you come from what you did on playing basketball, well, where did that rate as far as winning a coon hunt?
I took it for what it was worth at the time.
Yeah.
I was a poor kid, grew up on a dirt farm. We plowed mules, that's our source of power. And I was probably the tallest kid in that community. We didn't have a winning season, but my science teacher at the time was a graduate of Prairie View A&M University. And he would go back to graduate school on Saturdays to earn his master's degree. And he was telling the coach about me. And at that time, Prairie View had won the national championship, NAIA, not NCAA, NAIA. And they had a young man on there by the name of Zelmo Beatty, who played for 20 years, I'm at the NBA, and he died, bless his heart. And which a lot of my friends has done that and still doing it. He died from prostate cancer about 7, 8, 10 years ago. And I knew Zelmo's wife. When you go into these colleges and universities a lot of time, you know, I being from Fairfield, you had to pump daylight to me. I was scared, man, and that woman saw me. And little did I know she was the All-American's girlfriend. And she kind of took me as her little brother and kind of got me oriented. And that kind of went deep with me, you know, getting me acclimated to the campus and acclimated with my studies. And she ended up marrying Zelmo. Zelmo played for the St. Louis Hawks for 10 years, I imagine, with Richie Garrett and all those guys. And Zelmo ended up his last few years with the Portland Trail Blazers, his last 5 years or so before he retired. But at the end of the day, I left home, I had one pair of pants that was good, decent enough to put on without having a patch on them. My mother had patched my pants. That's how poor we were. And when I packed, and she put me, I had one pair of pants that didn't have a hole in them. And those that did, she thought was good enough for me to work in, she patched them. And when I went down to try out, see, they didn't, man, there's a Florida guy said he tried to see us come to see us play, one of the scouts, and he couldn't find it. We was the far back in the country. He told the coach to bring him with you next Saturday. And he was waiting on me. And we was playing 3-on-3. And he put 2 All-Americans on me, on my team. And we were playing against 3 other All-Americans on the team. And he had told those guys, feed him the ball. I want to see if he can shoot. And I could shoot. I had a flicked country jump shot. They were laughing at me, but me, when we played for about 2 hours, when it was over, that coach, I didn't even know the coach. I'd seen him, but I didn't know he was sitting in the stand. He was sitting in the stand. And he told us to get a shower. I ain't never been in no shower. Hell, I bathed in a number 3 tub. He said, take him and get him a shower. Y'all know what the towels are. And he said, tell him to come back by the office. And 2 of them All-Americans, when I got through, they carried me by the office. He said, come in, and he told me about the whole story, how I got down there. And he says, I don't have another kid that I recruited. I was 6'6" at the time. He said, now I don't think I had another kid can shoot the ball like you. He said, I'm going to change your shot. He said, but I'm going to offer you a scholarship. I'm going to tell you something, man, I could have flown out of there.
That's a blessing.
Where does that feeling's got to be?
Oh, even to this day, I get warm about it. I had a poor mother who was sick. My daddy was sick. My oldest brother was sick. And my baby brother. And I wanted to go to school. And I remember that old big black woman walking out. When my daddy sold all his cattle, I was helping him load them out. And when that man loaded out, all the last load, it took 4 days for him to haul them cattle. I would take them to his ranch. He said, I want this boy to go with me. He says, I got a house I would let him live in and work for me. And my mama heard that big black woman got up out of off the couch, and she went out and she said, no, sir. Said he's worked his farm all his life. Said, my baby's going to school. But at that point, I went to Prairie View, I got the scholarship. Didn't do so well my freshman year. I made the team, but I didn't get to play. But from my sophomore year through my senior year, I led the nation in scoring. And that's major and small colleges. I averaged 39.9 points a game my senior year. I averaged 38.6 my sophomore year. And I got drafted. And I don't want to say, then the story goes on, but it really, it enlightened me. It lifted me up, lifted my whole family up. And my kid brother, when he graduated, the coach told him, said, I got 15 boys that's better than you. He said, but what your oldest brother's done for this college, for this university, I'm gonna give you a 4-year scholarship. And, I said the birth of my son, and that is high, probably the highest in my life, but that gave me the energy to move on to, since I had enhanced other people's lives, it's like my family. And to this day, I bet you I've gotten over 60 boys scholarships to different colleges and universities around the United States because of the things that my career brought to me. And I played in NBA about 5 years, 6 years. And when I went in NBA, won with 9 teams. And the St. Louis Hawks drafted me, and I played there. And I ended up in Houston when they formed the American Basketball Association. I played about 5 years there.
Yeah, I say that was before the merger. Before
the merger.
Yeah.
That's right. Exactly right. Yes, sir.
That's amazing. But
So-
a guy, I've been wanting to ask you that for 10 years.
For you, I'm happy you did. I didn't mean to get too
No, that's a
warm.
good story.
No, I love
That's
it.
a
I
good
love
story.
it.
That's
But
that's a good one.
it warmed me up.
Your mama
and
wanted you to go to school.
Yep.
That's
And the
right.
day I went to Prairie View to try out, that was $1, and it was a silver dollar in the house. That's all we had.
No.
And I am not lying. When I walked out the door, my mother had been keeping that dollar for I don't know how many years. She said, here. She said, I don't want you to go down there broke. But the coach had me a meal ticket when I got there. I didn't need it. I spent 1 dime of that silver dollar, there's no lie, and I bought her 90 cents back home.
No kidding.
Yes, sir. I'm told that, and I'm not ashamed to tell it, but it does warm me up some.
That's a good story.
I don't know how I'm going to transition from one of the best stories ever on the podcast to the Kabuki kick.
Yeah, it's the Kabuki.
Kabuki, okay.
You remember the wrestler Kabuki?
Chance tried to explain it to me. and I said,
Well, what
I'm
it
just gonna
was,
ask
we
Eddie.
used to go to all these hunts, and I had a friend named Brad Williams.
Mm-hmm.
And that John Lynch, I did win second in the world hunt with his
Yeah.
dog.
Yep.
And he always come along, but he was kind of sour, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? He had a bad attitude sometimes. But anyway, we got to wrestling around in there, and I had a pair of shorts on and a t-shirt, and I used to be pretty active.
Yeah.
And Brad was over 6'6", my friend. We was best friends. And Lance tried to pin me on this bed, so I held him down, and I got off of him. He couldn't do nothing with me.
Yeah.
And so Brad come around the corner there, and I jumped up in the air, and I kicked him right here, and he went over 2 beds, and his feet was hanging up. He was a nice guy. He got up and he said, "What a Kabuki kick!" And that's how it come about. And Lance, Chance heard about it. He always brings that up. But
He called me. Here's Chance, pre-surgery, laying in the bed
Yeah.
with
Well.
poor Miss Stacy over there,
yeah,
milking him
about
up
the
and
Kabuki
down.
kick.
Worried about it. He goes, don't forget
But-
to ask Eddie about the Kabuki kick.
we always had a good time,
Oh, man.
no matter where we went.
Yeah.
And it wasn't always about winning; it was about being fair.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd rather see a dog tree 2 coons and beat me than somebody try to cheat you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It didn't mean nothing if I had to cheat.
Right.
No.
And but that was one of my better moments too in the world hunt. One day I was wanting to get in the top 4, and I went to the world hunt 12 years in a row, and I finally made it with a dog that I was supposed to made it with Thunder, but I
Yeah.
hunted Jake, and before I knew it, I was on the Ohio River. I made them I stopped the boat. Because I wouldn't go across there. Track assist across my back, boots.
Yeah.
I stripped off because I didn't want to fall in that river with all
Yeah.
that stuff on me.
I know where I went
And,
across on the same boat 2 or 3 times.
And
yeah.
make a long story short, how do you pronounce his last name? Al Norman.
Nunneman.
No.
He won it fair and square. It wasn't no cheating.
Yep.
Wasn't nothing. Wild Time.
Yep.
What is it, Eileen?
Alice.
Early,
Alice.
what?
No.
The early.
Yeah.
E.
Yeah.
Lene, early. I believe now. Don't quote me on that, but I know the female you're talking about.
Yeah, I never forgot it. I made it finally to the Final Four, and I heard her set up over there, and as soon as I got over that coon was just set, I said, "Oh God!" Ducked my head, and them dogs was playing around. Jake made a circle tree, and then I heard her again. She was going, and I went over there and same thing. And but that was a big moment because it was done fair and square.
Yeah, makes a difference.
Just didn't make it.
Yep. Well, this sport will give you the biggest highs and the biggest lows
Yeah.
of any one that I've participated in personally.
Yeah,
And that's a high, you getting in, and that's a low when that dog trees that coon to beat you.
yeah.
You know.
Well, Ronnie Bone got me a plaque said, "Suck it sucks." You know what I'm saying, back in. And he said, "You did win male world champion, but suck it sucks.
Yep,
You didn't
that
win."
is right.
You made a statement that this sport does what it does to us. It takes us to the highest, to the point of epitome, to the lowest ebb. And the only one thing else that I can think that and you really can't compare it, and that's life.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think there's some comparison there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of comparisons
Yeah,
there when you
yeah.
think about it.
Yeah.
You know, you get what you put in,
Yes.
whether it's with these hounds or in life.
That's right.
Your word is your bond here,
Yes,
just
yes,
like it
yeah.
is everywhere, all that stuff. And so I think you can compare it myself.
Well, if you don't got a shot of God in your life,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
you ain't gonna make it. You might make it, but it's gonna be a lot harder.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of
'Cause,
tribulation.
Yep,
You
I
know.
agree. Wesley, you got any stories that can top the Kabuki kick?
I don't. I just, I'm grateful to be here. I don't
Yeah.
belong here with these two guys.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, you do. And
I look up to them.
Yep.
my son was gonna come, but he had to work or something, and I was hoping he'd be.
Yeah.
And I'd like to say congratulations to Mark Gilmore.
Yes,
winning
for
that
sure.
Yeah,
1,000.
yeah,
Me too.
by all means.
Texas guy got it, brought it
Yeah,
home, and,
yeah.
and him and Clyde's is hard to beat.
They are.
We
They
go
are.
to Mahey over here to a $35 hunt, and we make the joke. You got Regan, Gilmore, Sean, me, and
Yeah.
if you can win a cast over here at $35 hunt, you can win anywhere,
Yeah.
you know. But all of us pile in there, and,
Yeah.
you know, we go at it. But
Yeah.
congratulations to him
Yeah.
for that. That's awesome. I'm proud for Gilmore.
And I
It's-
thank you for one more opportunity.
Yeah.
I really do.
No, I thank you guys for sitting down. When Chance said that he acted like it was going to be inconvenient for me, and I said, I don't care what I'm doing. I said, if I'm within driving range of them boys and we could sit down and do this in person as opposed to over the phone or something like that, I said, I want to do it bad because I've been wanting to sit down with Eddie and Guy and everybody down here, Wesley, and just have this conversation because I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I really
and
enjoyed all three
appreciate
of
you
you.
getting that dog at night. That meant a lot. I was in a band.
No, I did not think as highly as Eddie that night.
But it blew over, didn't it?
It did. It did. No, I was sure happy because it is. It's been a great conversation. It's exceeded expectations, and that was pretty big deal because I had pretty high expectations for
Yeah.
it. So thank you all very much.
Yeah, thank you.
And we did get Eddie nominated for the Hall of Fame. So
Good.
yeah, we're
And
gonna
that's
try to get
that's
him
the thing
in.
when you
Yes.
think when you
Yeah,
think
I
of what
meant to-
Eddie's done. I hope this podcast helps. I know where my vote's going to be cast and all that
Thank
stuff
you.
too.
Right.
So
Yeah,
He's a true gentleman of the sport,
Right.
And good at it when he
Yeah.
was really doing it.
Yeah.
He really was, and
He's been a credit to the sport,
yeah,
and no question about it.
so
'Cause- and it's long lived. It didn't just start.
right.
and he kind of took me under his wing, and Guy did, and Clee Ferguson. A lot of guys I could think.
and I
of.
learned a lot from Gad, both of us.
Yeah.
You know,
Thank you.
I'm just blessed to be down here around these people.
Yep,
And
I agree.
Great people inside coon hunting and outside
Yep.
coon hunting, and thankful for
well,
that.
back when I got started, I hunted with all the, like George Majors and, Ryan and all them, way back to Frankie Dukes.
Yeah.
He was a ornery, you know what I'm
Oh
saying.
yeah. Some of them boys are still on.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Frankie, he finally sent me a friend request before he died. You know what I'm saying? And I accepted it. But
Yep.
what I'm trying to say, it was a lot of older hunters that
Yep.
I really enjoyed. Like, what was that one up there, Babe, in Arkansas? Man that hunted years ago had that dog. I can't think of his name.
His
But
name was Babe.
yeah, Babe Dabbs.
That name somewhere it's coming, but
Well, anyway, he was an older man one night. We was in a cast, and there wasn't no way I could win. And I tapped him on the shoulder, and I pointed. He raised them ears up. He had ears that long, and he said, "Trade so and so." And that judge said, "You can't hear no dog that far." And he said, "I can too. He's right in there." He said, "Let's walk up." He heard him.
Yeah.
I had his name right on the end of my tongue. Something Dabbs.
Dabbs, yeah, Mr.
Yeah.
Dabbs.
Yeah.
Yeah, we call him Mr. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about
Yeah.
now, yes.
And
Yes, I remember
he liked
him.
me from that night on.
Yeah.
You know, just you made a lot of friends. What I'm
Yeah.
trying to say, trying to not only if you can't win, I like seeing somebody win that deserves it.
Yep.
Yeah,
Well, if that ain't Hall of Fame worthy, I don't know what is.
I know that's right. I know that's right. Well, I'll support him. I'll certainly support the nomination, and I'm glad the younger people have seen fit. I should have done this years ago to nominate Eddie, but like I said, I don't think as well as if I ever thought it well, but I don't think as well as I did then.
Yeah.
But he is one that I would definitely support.
But
Nope. If you guys ain't got anything else, we'll wrap this up, put some more wood in that stove, and call her an evening, huh?
I appreciate
Sounds good.
this.
Thank you.
I really
I
do.
appreciate you doing it.
Yes, I appreciate all three of you guys, and I appreciate everybody out there listening to the Fuel by Joy podcast, and we'll see you next week.